Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel where we bring the most iconic action stories to life. Today we are diving into a true Fall 2, 2025, Fall 2 is an upcoming survival psychological thriller film which will be directed by Scott Mann, who co-wrote the screenplay with Jonathan Frakes. The film stars Grace Caroline Currey, Virginia Gardner, Mason Gooding, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Starring Grace Caroline Currey, Virginia Gardner, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and Mason Gooding. Suspended thousands of feet above the earth, Fall 2 returns with a pulse-pounding survival story, where fear weighs on every breath, and a single misstep could mean the end. A group of thrill-seekers set out to conquer a crumbling radio tower, but their adrenaline-fueled climb soon unravels into a desperate fight for survival as rusted bolts groan, the wind screams, and the towering structure threatens to give way. The cast delivers searing, deeply human performances, capturing raw vulnerability and fierce courage in the face of impossible odds. The sound design is a relentless engine of tension, at times deafening, at times suffocatingly silent, mirroring the abyss that stretches beneath them. Visually, the film is staggering. Breathtaking cinematography locks audiences into a state of unyielding vertigo, plunging them into a nightmare at deadly heights. With psychological pressure pushed to the brink and physical danger lurking in every frame, Fall 2 is an unrelenting descent into terror, intimate, merciless, and unforgettable. Fall 2 returns with a dizzying new story of survival, where fear is measured in every breath, and every step could be the last. A new group of adventurers decides to climb an old, ruined radio tower, but what begins as an adrenaline-fueled feat soon becomes a desperate fight for survival, as bolts creak, the wind howls, and the structure threatens to collapse. The cast's performances are intense and deeply human, conveying vulnerability and courage amid extreme danger. The sound design is a lesson in tension, sometimes deafening, sometimes agonizingly quiet, reflecting the abyss yawning beneath their feet. Visually stunning, the cinematography induces a constant vertigo that plunges the viewer into a high-altitude nightmare. With psychological tension at its peak and imminent physical danger in every scene, Fall 2 is a chilling descent into fear that never lets up. Becky, her husband Dan, and their friend Hunter are rock climbing when Dan loses his footing and falls to his death. A year later, Becky has become reclusive and withdrawn, struggling with grief and contemplating suicide. She has also become estranged from her father, who believes Dan would not have mourned her in the same way. On the anniversary of Dan's death, Hunter invites Becky to climb the decommissioned 2,000-foot, 610 m, B-67 TV tower in the desert. Hunter suggests scattering Dan's ashes from the top as a form of closure. Though hesitant, Becky agrees. After reaching the base, the two ascend via a series of rusted ladders to a small platform at the summit. There, Hunter encourages Becky to briefly free-hang from the platform while recording the moment for social media. Becky scatters Dan's ashes, and they begin their descent, but a ladder segment breaks off, leaving them stranded at the top with no way down. Becky is slightly injured in the fall, and their backpack, containing water and a drone, lands on a satellite dish far below. With no cellular signal due to interference from the tower's communications equipment, the pair attempt various methods to attract help. Hunter places her phone in a shoe and drops it beyond the interference range, but it fails to result in rescue. They later spot two men with a dog nearby and signal them with a flare gun, but the men steal their car instead. Becky then discovers a tattoo on Hunter's ankle with the numbers 143, a code Dan used to say, "I love you." Hunter admits to having had an affair with Dan before Becky's wedding. The next day, Hunter climbs down using their rope to retrieve the backpack. Though injured, she succeeds in tying the bag to the rope, and Becky hauls her back up. With power drawn from a warning light on the tower, Becky recharges the drone and sends it toward a nearby motel with a written message, but it is struck by a truck and destroyed. Becky realizes that Hunter fell and died as she was hauling her and the backpack up, and that she has been imagining Hunter's presence ever since. As Becky grows weaker from dehydration, a vulture attacks her wounded leg. She kills it and consumes part of it for nourishment. Regaining strength, Becky descends to Hunter's body, hides a phone with a text message to her father inside Hunter's shoe, and pushes the body along with the shoe off the tower. The message is transmitted upon impact. Fall was originally conceived as a short film. Director Scott Mann developed the idea while filming Final Score, 2018, at a stadium in the United Kingdom. During production, Mann and his crew discussed the universal fear of heights and fallen, which inspired him to create a narrative centered on vertical isolation and psychological tension. The project was later expanded into a feature-length survival thriller, with a screenplay co-written by Mann and Jonathan Frakes. Grace Caroline Currey and Virginia Gardner were cast in the lead roles of Becky and Hunter, respectively. Mason Gooding and Jeffrey Dean Morgan appeared in supporting roles. Currey and Gardner were offered the option of using stunt doubles but chose to perform their own stunts throughout filming. Principal photography took place in the Shadow Mountains of the Mojave Desert in California. The fictional B-67 TV tower in the film was modeled after the real-life KXTV/KOVR tower in Walnut Grove, California, one of the tallest structures in the world at 2,049 feet, 625 meters. The film was shot in IMAX format to emphasize its vertical scale and enhance the tension of high-altitude scenes. To create the illusion of extreme height, the upper sections of the tower were constructed atop a mountain, allowing the actors to be filmed at real elevations of up to 100 feet above ground level. 3. The filmmakers deliberately avoided the use of green screens or digital sets to preserve visual authenticity. 4. Filming was frequently delayed due to weather challenges such as lightning and strong winds. The film was produced on a budget of approximately $3 million. After production concluded, Fall was acquired by Lionsgate Films for distribution, without a minimum guarantee. 8. Following positive test screenings, the studio opted for a wide theatrical release. In order to obtain a PG-13 rating from the Motion Picture Association, Lionsgate requested that over 30 instances of the word "fuck" be replaced or removed to avoid an R rating. Rather than reshoot scenes, the filmmakers used deepfake technology provided by Flawless, a company co-founded by Mann and Nick Lights. This Euro reshoot process digitally altered the actors' lip movements and dubbed milder language, such as "freaking," into the original footage. The changes were completed in 2 weeks. Flawless technology was also used to facilitate foreign language dubbing for international releases, including Spanish and Japanese markets. Fall was released theatrically in the United States on August 12, 2022, by Lionsgate, which reportedly spent $4 million on its release and promotion. The film became available digitally on September 27, 2022, and was subsequently released on Blu-ray and DVD on October 18, 2022. Fall grossed $7.2 million in the United States and Canada, and $14.6 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $21.8 million, against a production budget of $3 million. In the United States and Canada, the film was released alongside Matt and Rita and the wide expansion of Bodies, 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 and was projected to earn $1 to $2 million from 1,548 theaters during its opening weekend. 14. It earned $923,000 on its first day and went on to debut with $2.5 million, finishing 10th at the box office but ranking as the highest-grossing new release of the week. 15. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 79% of 149 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of June 4, 10. The website's consensus reads, "Fundamentally absurd yet as evocatively minimalist as its title, Fall is a sustained adrenaline rush for viewers willing to suspend disbelief." 17. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 62 out of 100, based on 23 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. 18. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of B on an A+ to F scale, while PostTrack reported 69% overall positive scores, with 44% of viewers saying they would definitely recommend it. 16. Following the film's growing popularity after its release on Netflix, a sequel was announced to be in development in March 2023. By October 2023, it was reported that 2 sequels were concurrently in development, with studios aiming to expand Fall into a franchise. Scott Mann was confirmed to serve as a producer on both films, in addition to co-writing and directing the third installment. The sequels are expected to feature returning characters from the original film alongside a new supporting cast. Production will be a joint venture between T-Shop Productions, Flawless Productions Incorporated, and Capstone Pictures, with Mark Lane, James Harris, Christian Mercury, and David Herring also attached as producers. Principal photography on the second film is scheduled to begin in June 2024. 22-23. In May 2024, Peter and Michael Spyrick were announced as co-directors of the sequel, working from a script co-written by Mann and Jonathan Frank. Mann is set to write and direct the third film following completion of the second installment. In September 2025, Harriet Slater, Arsema Thomas, and Tom Brittney were announced as the main cast. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, born April 22, 1966, is an American actor. He is best known for playing the character Negan in the AMC horror drama series The Walking Dead, 2016 to 2022, and its spin-off The Walking Dead, Dead City, 2023-present, for both of which he has received critical acclaim. He has also appeared in television roles such as John Winchester in the CW fantasy horror series Supernatural, 2005 to 2008, 2019, Denny Duquette in the ABC medical drama series Grey's Anatomy, 2006 to 2009, Jason Krause in the CBS political drama series The Good Wife, 2015 to 2016. Joe Kessler in the Amazon Prime Video adult superhero series The Boys, 2024-present, and Conquest in Invincible, 2025-present, as well as film roles including William Gallagher in P.S. I Love You, 2007, the comedian in the superhero film Watchmen, 2009, Clay in The Losers, 2010, Sergeant Mosh Andrew Tanner in Red Dawn, 2012, and Agent Harvey Russell in Rampage, 2018. He also starred as a pivotal character in the History Channel's miniseries about the war with Mexico for the creation of Texas, Texas Rising, 2015. Early life. Morgan was born in Renton, Washington, to Sandy Thomas and Richard Dean Morgan, II. Morgan grew up in Cookland, Washington, and attended Ben Franklin Elementary School, III, where he participated in his first theater experience. 4. He also attended Rose Hill Junior High, III. In 1984, Morgan graduated from Lake Washington High School, 5, where he was captain of the basketball team, 6. Morgan briefly attended, when? Skagit Valley College to pursue a career in basketball. 5. 7. Following a leg injury that ended his hope of becoming a professional player, he left school, when? To pursue his other interests such as painting and writing. 4. While living in Seattle, Morgan sold paintings and completed his first acting roles, Uncaged, 1991, and To Cross the Rubicon, 1991, the latter with his roommate, actor Billy Buck. 4. Several years later, when, while helping a friend move from Seattle to Los Angeles, intending only to stay for a weekend, he decided to live there permanently to pursue acting. I fell into acting, found out I had a little talent, and pursued it. 2. 3. Career. Starting with Uncaged, 1991, Morgan has appeared in over 25 feature films. However, the bulk of his work has been in television. He was a major character in the 1996-97 television series The Burning Zone, appearing in 11 of its 19 episodes. In 2005 and 2006, Morgan simultaneously appeared in 3 television series, in the CW series Supernatural as John Winchester, in a recurring role on ABC's Grey's Anatomy as heart transplant patient Denny Duquette, and as Judah Botwin in 2 episodes of the Showtime series Weeds. He has also guest-starred in a number of television series, including Yar, Jag, Walker, Texas Ranger, Angel, CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, Sliders, The OC, and Monk. In 2007, Morgan was cast in a proposed project by Grey's Anatomy creator Shonda Rhimes. The series, tentatively titled Correspondence, was to have started production in summer 2007. ABC instead picked up a spin-off of Grey's Anatomy, called Private Practice, that was also created by Rhimes. As a result, Correspondence was shelved. In 2007, Morgan starred in the film The Accidental Husband, which finished filming in March 2007 and was released on DVD in 2009. Jeffrey starred in the thriller The Resident in 2011. He also appeared in the drama film Days of Wrath in 2008. In 2009, Morgan portrayed the comedian, a cigar-chomping anti-hero in Watchmen, based on Alan Moore's graphic novel, 8. In the same year, Morgan appeared in Taking Woodstock and played Clay in a comic book film adaptation of The Losers. He also played Jet Turnbull in the DC comic book film Jonah Hex. Morgan at the premiere of Watchmen in 2009. Morgan appeared in the crime thriller Texas Tilling Fields as a homicide detective in 2011. 9. The following year, Morgan starred in the television drama series Magic City, which centered on mob life in 1950s Miami. The same year, Morgan starred in the horror thriller The Possession, and had a supporting role in the war film Red Dawn. In 2014, Morgan played Charlie Peters, the owner of the Cake House, in the season finale of Shameless. In November 2014, Morgan was cast as Joe DiMaggio opposite Kelly Gardner as Marilyn Monroe in The Secret Life of Marilyn Monroe, a Lifetime 4-hour miniseries based on J. Randy Taraborelli's book of the same name, 10. In 2015, Morgan portrayed Deaf Smith in Texas Rising, a 5-part miniseries which aired on the History Channel. Also in 2015, Morgan became a regular cast member for Season 2 of the CBS sci-fi drama Extant. He appeared in an uncredited role in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, as Bruce Wayne's father, Thomas Wayne. In 2015, Morgan took on the role of freelance investigator Jason Krause, opposite Juliana Margulies, in the CBS TV series The Good Wife, until that series concluded in the spring of 2016. That year Morgan began his most noted role to date, as Negan on the AMC TV series The Walking Dead. He made his first appearance in the sixth season finale on April 3, 2016, serving as the primary antagonist of the seventh and eighth seasons and later an anti-hero since the ninth season. He later lent his voice to the character when he was added as DLC in the fighting game Tekken 7, 11. In 2015, he had a lead role in Jomis Quaran's thriller film Desierto, 12. On May 28, 2017, Morgan drove the 2017 Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport pace car to lead the starting field of the 101st Indianapolis 500. 13. In September, Morgan appeared in a commercial for the online game Evany. Morgan was fifth billed in the Dwayne Johnson film Rampage, released in April 2018. Morgan reprised his role as John Winchester in the 13th episode of the 14th season of Supernatural, which was also the 300th episode of the series. 14. It aired on February 7, 2019. In August 2022, Morgan was cast in the fourth season of The Boys, while initially reported to be a recurring role. 15. On the season's release in 2024, Morgan was credited as a main cast member, portraying Joe Kessler, a hallucination/alter ego of Billy Butcher. 16. In 2025, Morgan hosted the reality show Destination X. Peter Hutchins states varied films have been labeled psychological thrillers, but he usually refers to narratives with domesticated settings in which action is suppressed and where thrills are provided instead via investigations of the psychologies of the principal characters. 4. The distinguishing characteristic of a psychological thriller is it emphasizes the mental states of its characters, their perceptions, thoughts, distortions, and general struggle to grasp reality. 5. According to director John Madden, psychological thrillers focus on story, character development, choice, and moral conflict. Fear and anxiety drive the psychological tension in unpredictable ways. However, the majority of psychological thrillers have happy endings. Madden stated their lack of spectacle and strong emphasis on character led to their decline in Hollywood popularity. 6. Psychological thrillers are suspenseful by exploiting uncertainty over characters' motives, honesty, and how they see the world. 7. Films can also cause discomfort in audiences by privileging them with information they wish to share with the characters. Guilty characters may suffer similar distress by virtue of their knowledge. 5. However, James N. Fry defines psychological thrillers as a style, rather than a subgenre. Fry states good thrillers focus on the psychology of their antagonists and build suspense slowly through ambiguity. D. Creators and/or film distributors or publishers who seek to distance themselves from the negative connotations of horror often categorize their work as a psychological thriller. 9. The same situation can occur when critics label a work to be a psychological thriller in order to elevate its perceived literary value. The survival film is a film genre in which one or more characters make an effort at physical survival. 1. The genre focuses on characters' life or death struggles, often set against perilous circumstances. Survival films explore the human will to live, individual motivations, and personal desires, prompting audiences to reflect on broader aspects of humanity and personal values. They balance realism and believability with slow-burning suspense to maintain a sense of urgency. While some survival films may have epic sculpts and lengthy running times, their effectiveness lies in creating an atmosphere where every moment poses a passive threat to the protagonist's existence. 2. Survival films are darker than most other adventure films and usually focus their storyline on a single character, usually the protagonist. The films tend to be located primarily in a contemporary context, so film audiences are familiar with the setting, and the characters' activities are less romanticized. 3. In a 1988 book, Thomas Sobchak compared the survival film to romance film. They both emphasize the heroic triumph over obstacles which threaten social order and the reaffirmation of predominant social values such as fair play and respect for merit and cooperation. 3. The author said survival films identify and isolate a microcosm of society, such as the surviving group from the plane crash in The Flight of the Phoenix, 1965, or those on the overturned ocean liner in The Poseidon Adventure, 1972. Sobchak explained, most of the time in a survival film is spent depicting the process whereby the group, cut off from the securities and certainties of the ordinary support networks of civilized life, forms itself into a functioning, effective unit. The group often varies in types of characters, sometimes to the point of caricature. While women have historically been stereotyped in such films, they often play a decisive role in the success or failure of the group. Gardner was born in Sacramento, California. She attended Sacramento Country Day School from kindergarten to 8th grade. She took part in many of her middle school's productions. In 2011, she took online schooling when she moved to Los Angeles, but then chose to take the California High School Proficiency Exam when she was allowed to, in October 2011, for her desire to act was due to the 2001 Sean Penn film I Am Sam. In the movie, Dakota Fanning's dad has autism, and I have a brother with autism, and I remember watching that as a young girl and relating to her character and being affected by that, Gardner explains. That's what made me want to get into this industry and make things that can affect people and that people can relate to. 5. She has a black belt in Taekwondo, and also took up boxing and nunchucks. 6. Gardner initially lived with her mother to pursue acting full-time. Gardner lived with her mother for the first year, however, once she started to be more successful and able to handle herself, she moved into her own apartment and began to live on her own. After appearing on the Disney Channel series Lab Rats, she took a year off from acting to work on modeling. When she became absorbed in modeling, she was going to stop acting, but then heard about the audition for Glee. She has modeled for Kohl's, Love Culture, HP, Hollister, LF, and Famous Footwear. 4. In 2015, Gardner starred in the found-footage science fiction thriller film Project Almanac as Christina Raskin, the main character's younger sister. 7. The movie helped Gardner to establish herself in Hollywood. In February 2017, it was announced that Gardner would star as Carolina Dean in Marvel's Runaways, 2017, a Hulu original series. 8. 9. She has received wide recognition for her portrayal of the LGBTQ hero. 5. 6. In January 2018, it was announced that Gardner would star as Vicky in the horror film Halloween, 2018, a sequel to the 1978 film of the same name. The first experiments in radio communication were conducted by Guglielmo Marconi beginning in 1894. In 1895 to 1896 he invented the vertical monopole or Marconi antenna, which was initially a wire suspended from a tall wooden pole. He found that the higher the antenna was suspended, the further he could transmit, the first recognition of the need for height in antennas. Radio began to be used commercially for radiotelegraphic communication around 1900, too. The first 20 years of commercial radio were dominated by radiotelegraph stations, transmitting over long distances by using very long wavelengths in the very low frequency band, such long waves that they are nearly unused at present. Because the extreme wavelengths were 1 to several kilometers long, even the tallest feasible antennas by comparison were still too short, electrically, and consequently had inherently very low radiation resistance, only 525 ohms. In any antenna, low radiation resistance leads to excessive power losses in its surrounding ground system, since the low resistance antenna cannot effectively compete for power with the high resistance earth. To partially compensate, radio telegraph stations used huge capacitively top-loaded flat-top antennas consisting of horizontal wires strung between multiple 100 to 300 meters, 330 to 980 feet, steel towers to increase efficiency, 2 pp 77 to 78. Multi-wire broadcast T antenna of early AM station WBZ, Springfield, Massachusetts, 1925. AM radio broadcasting began around 1920. The allocation of the medium wave frequencies for broadcasting raised the possibility of using single vertical masts without top loading. The antenna used for broadcasting through the 1920s was the T antenna, which consisted of two masts with loading wires on top, strung between them, requiring twice the construction costs and land area of a single mast, 2 pp 77 to 78. In 1924, Stuart Ballantyne published two historic papers which led to the development of the single-mast antenna, 2 pp 77 to 78. In the first, he derived the radiation resistance of a vertical conductor over a ground plane, 3 pp 833 to 839. He found that the radiation resistance increased to a maximum at a length of. By 1930, the expense of the T antenna led broadcasters to adopt the mast radiator antenna, in which the metal structure of the mast itself functions as the antenna, 2 pp 79 to 81. One of the first types used was the diamond cantilever or Blanox tower. This had a diamond, rhombohedral, shape which made it rigid, so only one set of guide lines was needed, at its wide waist. The pointed lower end of the antenna ended in a large ceramic insulator in the form of a ball and socket joint on a concrete base, relieving bending moments on the structure. The first, a 665-foot, 203 m, half-wave mast was installed at radio station WABC's 50 kilowatts transmitter at Wayne, New Jersey in 1931, 4-5. During the 1930s, it was found that the diamond shape of the Blanox tower had an unfavorable current distribution which increased the power emitted at high angles, causing multipath fading in the listening area, 2 pp 79 to 81. By the 1940s, the AM broadcast industry had abandoned the Blanox design for the narrow, uniform cross-section lattice mast used today, which had a better radiation pattern. The rise of FM radio and television broadcasting in the 1940s, 1950s created a need for even taller masts. The earlier AM broadcasting used LF and MF bands, where radio waves propagate as ground waves which follow the contour of the Earth. The ground-hugging waves allowed the signals to travel beyond the horizon, out to hundreds of kilometers. However, the newer FM and TV transmitters used the VHF band, in which radio waves travel by line of sight, so they are limited by the visual horizon. The only way to cover larger areas is to raise the antenna high enough so it has a line-of-sight path to them. Until August 8, 1991, the Warsaw radio mast was the world's tallest supported structure on land. Its collapse left the KVLY/KTHI-TV mast as the tallest. There are over 50 radio structures in the United States that are 600 meters, 1968.5 feet, or taller, 6. The steel lias is the most widespread form of construction. It provides great strength, low weight and wind resistance, and economy in the use of materials. Lattices of triangular cross-section are most common, and square lattices are also widely used. Guide masts are often used. The supporting guy lines carry lateral forces such as wind loads, allowing the mast to be very narrow and simply constructed. When built as a tower, the structure may be parallel-sided or taper over part or all of its height. When constructed of several sections which taper exponentially with height, in the manner of the Eiffel Tower, the tower is said to be an Eiffelized one. The Crystal Palace Tower in London is an example. Tubular steel. Typical 200-foot, 61 m, triangular guide lattice mast of an AM radio station in Mount Vernon, Washington, U.S. Guide masts are sometimes also constructed out of steel tubes. This construction type has the advantage that cables and other components can be protected from weather inside the tube, and consequently the structure may look cleaner. These masts are mainly used for FM/TV broadcasting, but sometimes also as mast radiator. The big mast of Malacca transmitting station is a good example of this. A disadvantage of this mast type is that it is much more affected by winds than masts with open bodies. Several tubular guide masts have collapsed. In the UK, the Emily Moore and Waltham TV stations' masts collapsed in the 1960s. In Germany, the Bielstein transmitter collapsed in 1985. Tubular masts were not built in all countries. In Germany, France, UK, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Japan, and the Soviet Union, many tubular guide masts were built, while there are nearly none in Poland or North America. Several tubular guide masts were built in cities in Russia and Ukraine. These masts feature horizontal crossbars running from the central mast structure to the guys and were built in the 1960s. The crossbars of these masts are equipped with a gangway that holds smaller antennas, though their main purpose is oscillation dampen. The design designation of these masts is 30,107 kilometers, and they are exclusively used for FM and TV and are between 150 to 200 meter, 490 to 660 feet tall, with one exception. The exception being the mast in Venezia, which has height of 354 meters, 1,161 feet, and is currently the tallest guide tubular mast in the world after the Belmont transmitting station was reduced in height in 2010.